What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel, and just a quick background, right? If you watch my channel, you know I don't mince my words with the games that I play, in particular, football games, right? Lifelong FC player, but you better believe that over those years there was long periods of playing Konami's Pro Evolution Soccer, all the way back to International Superstar Soccer as well. The ISS 64 was one of my favorite games. Literally, the first realistic or close to realistic for those times, unbelievable levels of realism in a football game. You got to think, these are N64 days. So my point is that the realistic part of football has gone all the way back, and it was always thanks to Konami, right? Which is what led me back to playing eFootball, because the initial release, right, when I was over playing FC competitively, it was a joke. And it was largely because of the same thing that they did historically as far as making a mistake. They rushed the game, it had a ton of glitches, and it overshadowed that underneath that it was a brilliant football game with that same realism that many players grew to love year after year after year, all the way back over 25 years ago, right? That same realism, that same, staying true to football type of development is within eFootball. And that's why I am here. However, it is shameful the way many players play this game, and don't get me wrong, it is also shameful that Konami tends to this, oversaturating a great game with assistance so that these lazy players who don't want to put the work in to get good at a realistic football game can still compete, and therefore they'll still spend their money because Konami knows if they're losing, if they're getting whooped, not only will they not spend their money, but they won't play. So from a business perspective, I do get it. But it's shameful that you took a masterpiece. I use Mozart as an example, but as Mozart was a musician, let's use Picasso. Let's say he paints his masterpiece, or one of many. You just choose a masterpiece from Picasso. And then at the end, he takes a big dump on it. That's essentially what Konami did, and that's what they've done several times over the history of this game. However, the saving grace has always been the die-hard footballers that love the realism in Konami's football games, and that's why this game has always been a cult classic, even when they had some terrible releases, right? There's way more diehard players than me that stuck around when they just totally shit the bed, for lack of a better term, right? However, now what I'm seeing is a vast majority of those players are either gone, or they're just super quiet and not, on social media, or not willing to speak up and really fight for what this game could and should be. And if you cut out two major cancers, it's well on its way to being the masterpiece that it is. One of the cancers you are seeing right now, and it's kind of combined, right? They're associated but different, and I'll explain. This opponent, for no fault of his own, this isn't one of those rats, right? But he's just not a very high-level player. He's high-ranked in eFootball right now, but he's not a very high-level player. Now, I'm 1 month in, I'm top 1% of the players according to the rankings, right? Which is very good. A lot of players would just be happy with that and move on. But for me, knowing how good this game can be, understanding the mechanics and understanding the realism and appreciating all the detail Konami put in, and then seeing the results due to these two cancers I'm talking about, I'm definitely not going to just shut up about it and play a game that's about 50% of what it could be, right? And so a low-level player like this, because of all the assistance Konami has added to fuel these low-level players who are the main culprit, it ruins the game. So the cancers, the low-level, low-skill players that don't want to put the work in to really play football, right, that turn this into really an anti-football type of game when it could be, like I keep saying, a masterpiece. And then secondary to that is Konami recognizing, hey, to make the most money, we have to keep this large amount of low-skill players. So we're going to add things like smart assists. We're going to oversaturate the game with a ton of scripting or balancing or momentum, if you want to call it, which momentum could be I'm whooping a player. Like in this game, it's 1-to-1. In any other football game right now, with the exception of UFL, because UFL has the same problem but different because they have a ton of exploits. But that's not even football. They don't have an underlying great game over there to be fighting for. It's just total nonsense because the development team can't fix glitches, and therefore the game's all about exploits to win. So we're not comparing that. As far as actual football games, it's really just eFootball and FC. And as I always say, there's a reason I'm over here, because when we're talking pure football, eFootball is miles better than FC, right? Miles better than EA Sports' football game. But as an overall product, even with all the issues that FC has, they don't have these glaring nonsense issues that are in eFootball, such as adding smart assist to every mode, right? You have top-ranked players using a smart assist system where the AI makes all their decisions for them, all the most important decisions, and you have top-ranked players using this. You have game after game that look like this. This isn't a one-off game. This is a microcosm of what every game looks like, where you're just destroying your opponent. It truly should be 5 or 6-0, but because of quote-unquote balancing or momentum, which really just means one player's way better than the other, we're going to give that lower-level player assistance, right? It all ties into what I was talking about with these lower-level players and Konami helping them out. And so, for example, when you have wonky nonsense like this, where you literally read a play, intercept a pass, and because the coding is not used to manual work at all, right? It's so overridden with AI assistance, you get craziness like this where you intercept the ball 8 yards out and there's a glitch with the goalkeeper where you essentially give an opponent a goal, right? And here's the problem too. If you turn on smart assist like a lot of these low-level players, but high-ranked, but low-level players doing in these competitions, that would have been an auto clearance. My Arojo, I wouldn't even have had to do anything. He would have automatically took care of the ball himself. That is the problem. Because this isn't a one-off thing. This is game after game after game. And so the game, what it could be and should be, a great football game with great details that stays true to football, is totally overshadowed. That's why it wasn't until a month ago where players in my community had to really explain how good eFootball was. You don't see any of it because all of these players, right, and it's a lot of them, a vast majority, go check my streams. Game after game, you face these high-ranked but low-level players, and that's what gets shared of eFootball. Not the beautiful football you can play, which is what I'm trying to show and which I have been showing. And yes, I've gotten high-ranked. Within 1 month, I'm already beating a lot of these top-level players, but that's not surprising because low-skill players are high-rated in this game. It's why you see a ton of nonsense all around when you're talking about eFootball, and it's why it's largely considered a joke of a football game, right? And people will get offended by that, but it's true. Yes, this is a game that's miles better than FC, but because of what I'm talking about, the oversaturated AI assistance that's in the game because it's catering to these low-level, low-skill players that have overtaken eFootball, you have a joke of a game being shown and really being played at these high levels as opposed to the great football that it could be and should be, right? So, obviously I can't do this alone. I'm an extremely small channel, but I have no doubt that if I keep fighting forward, playing good football, showing that you can get rewarded, right, which a month in, being top 1% of players, Division 2 right now, right, with the way the system works at eFootball, is pretty good. But I'm not even close to done. And all of that despite having those type of games that you just saw, right, where the nonsense from within eFootball prevails over skill and these lower level opponents prevail with victories when really it shouldn't even have been a game. I mean, football wise, they're getting destroyed. I went on stream yesterday and I had an opponent that I played just in a friendly because he was yapping, and we were talking about good football versus nonsense. And he was one of those what many would call like an eFootball fanboy, and he just couldn't accept that if you really loved eFootball, then you would understand that that's what the goal is to try to get this game to be at the level it should be, which in order to do that, you got to take out all this nonsense. So he's like, here, I'll show you real football, this and that. And obviously, yes, at the end of the day, could easily have been trolling, right? And I knew that going in. But I just wanted to show people what you're dealing with overall because he represented the type of players that we're talking about here that are playing like this, that are such losers, they would rather waste their time playing anti-football in the football simulator when they have such a good game that they could be playing and could be working at to play beautiful football, right? And it's like, it blows your mind. Like, why would they even do that? It's for nothing. Why not take advantage of how good this game is? Well, it's because players like the one I'm talking about gets on stream with a whole bunch of nonsense and totally doesn't play football at all. I actually end up dominating him. I'm in his half the entire time. He ends up 2 different times with smart assist on, by the way, trying to lie about it, with smart assist on, playing 2 balls, right? Playing negative the whole time, but then playing 2 balls from his defender up to his striker, gets 2 goals out of it. The only 2 times he pretty much was in my half. That's eFootball. Game after game after game. that's what you face. And because of that, that's why the larger overall viewpoint of eFootball, right, from FC players, from UFL players, from everybody, is that eFootball is a nonsense game. It truly isn't. That's my point. But all of these things are what make FC the better overall product. Because in FC, you don't have a lot of this trash. You would never see a smart assist mode. You would never see these low-level players rank so high. You would never see a player come in like myself 1 month in and get all the way to the top, beating top 1,000 players, top 800 players, top 1,500, top... I mean, go look at my streams, right? And in order to get this game to where it should be and keep respectful to the roots of eFootball and the roots of everything Konami created, even though they disrespected their own game that they created, the truth is it's similar to Star Wars, where George Lucas created it, but it's because of the fans, right? It's because of the player base that this game is so special. And to get this nonsense out, we have to be honest. Ignoring the problem, not speaking up about it, right? Wanting to just speak glowingly about the game and hide all the BS, that's not going to do us any good. We have to point out things like what you're seeing right here. Just like that wonky goal earlier, a defensive clearance turns into a glitch goal where Araujo decides to offensively head the ball into my own net. So a situation in which I've cleared a million different headers with Araujo, who has aerial forward, he wins a lot of aerial balls. He decides with perfect technique, instead of heading it the direction I wanted and clearing it, this time he heads it right into my net. Or in this same game where I point this open nether to the left. I hit bombs with Schneider all day. If you have Schneider, if you don't, you should know he has very good finishing, very good shots, long range within the box all the time. But for some reason, on this one of the easiest finishes you could make, bouncing or not, right? The goalie's on the ground. I'm pointing to the left side of the net. He hits an unnatural shot, right? And literally has to turn his body and actually make an effort to hit it at the goalie, who makes a reaction as if it was scripted. I mean, watch this again. Even if he would have mishit it or shanked it or something, right? Even though I know the level of shooting Schneider, as I've scored a million goals with him, the way he hit it at the goalkeeper while I'm pointing left, that's where if he would have shanked it wide or over the top or something, he literally makes an effort to shoot it at the goalie when I'm totally pointing in the opposite direction because of the scripting of the nonsense. Whereas another play, it might go in the net. It always happens to be when I'm outplaying these players. And if you wonder why this happens so much, it's because I'm outplaying a vast majority of my opponents. And so this must be discussed because the scripting is out of control, because the nonsense that these players are using, right? All of the exploits, whether it's spamming through balls, using smart assists in these higher levels, I don't care whether you can or not. That is a disgrace. We're talking about playing football here and competing in football, and you got losers that would rather win at something, even though it's not them winning. I might as well just play AI divisions, because at least they play better football and don't spam through balls or try any and every exploit they can anyway to not play football because they don't have the skill. It is a joke to this game, and the only way to fix it is to speak up about it. And then if you actually had good football and took this nonsense out, that's what would be spread about this game, and it would get the respect it deserves. And us as actual football gaming fans, actual football fans that want to play real football, would have an insane game to play. All this frustration would be gone. So even if it never happens, right, even if these low-level players continue to thrive in the game, well, the more players playing real football, the more players there are to whoop them playing real football. And at the very least, it's worth fighting for, and it's better than just sitting around and accepting the nonsense that is going on right now. That's my take at least, and that's what this game will be all about for me. And I just wanted to share that because I know there's more players like me out there. I know my community is full of them. And I know there's even more that haven't discovered my community. I know I'm a small YouTuber. But as we fight the good fight, even if we can gain 1, 2, 10, 20, 30 players that feel the same way as us, it was well worth it. With that being said, keep grinding, keep having fun. I will see you on the next one. Peace.